The girl collapsed after touching Ji-won's arm. He caught her before she hit the floor. She was lighter than he expected, her body thin and fragile from years in cryosleep. Her scales felt smooth and cool under his hands like touching polished stone. Ji-won carried her to his quarters and laid her on the bed. She was unconscious but breathing steadily. Her chest rose and fell in a gentle rhythm. The small wings on her back twitched occasionally as if dreaming. He covered her with a thermal blanket and sat in the chair beside the bed. His own body ached with exhaustion, but he refused to sleep. He needed to watch over her. To make sure she was okay, hours passed. The station's lights hummed above them. Outside the window, stars drifted by in the eternal darkness of space. When the girl finally woke, the first thing she did was sit up and look around in panic. Her golden eyes were wide with fear. She saw Ji-won and tensed, ready to run or fight. Ji-won held up his hands again. "Easy," he said calmly. "You are safe here. I promise." She stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked down at her hands, flexing her fingers. She touched her face, her horns, her scales. It was like she was checking to make sure she was real. Ji-won stood slowly and walked to the small table. He had prepared food and water. Simple things. Protein bars and clean water from the station's recycler. He picked up a bottle of water and offered it to her. She eyed it suspiciously. But thirst won over caution. She took the bottle with shaking hands and drank deeply. Water spilled down her chin and she did not seem to care. When she finished, she looked at Ji-won with slightly less fear. She spoke again in her language. The words were soft and musical, like singing. Ji-won shook his head. "I do not understand," she frowned. Then she pointed at herself and said something that sounded like Arin. "Arin," Ji-won repeated. He pointed at himself. "Ji-won," her eyes brightened. "Ji-won," she said carefully. Her accent was strange, but she pronounced it well enough. It was a start. Over the next few days, they learned to communicate. Arin was intelligent and learned quickly. She picked up basic words in Ji-won's language. He taught her the names of things: table, chair, water, food, light. She taught him a few words in her language too, though he could not pronounce them well. His mouth was not built for the musical tones her people used. Arin was curious about everything. She explored the station with wide eyes, touching the walls and machinery. Sometimes she would stop and stare at something simple, like a light switch, as if it was the most amazing thing she had ever seen. Ji-won realized she must have been asleep for a very long time. Long enough that the world she knew was gone. One evening, as they sat together in the common room, Arin tried to explain where she came from. Her words were broken and mixed with gestures, but Ji-won understood enough. She was from a species called the Nerith, dragon people who had lived in the outer regions of the galaxy. They were scientists and artists, peaceful beings who valued knowledge above all else. But something had happened. A great disaster. Arin did not have the words to explain it fully, but Ji-won saw the pain in her eyes. Her people were gone. All of them. She was alone. That night, Arin cried. She sat on the floor of the common room and wept silently, her shoulders shaking. Tears ran down her scaled cheeks and dropped to the metal floor. Ji-won sat beside her. He did not try to comfort her with words. What could he say? Instead, he just stayed close, a quiet presence in the darkness. After a while, Arin leaned against him. Her head rested on his shoulder. Ji-won put his arm around her carefully, and she did not pull away. They sat like that for a long time. As the days passed, they fell into a routine. Ji-won continued repairing the station, and Arin helped him. She was surprisingly strong for her size. Her hands could grip and pull with more force than his, and she learned quickly how the machines worked. They worked together on the life support systems. Ji-won showed her how to replace filters and check pressure readings. Arin watched everything with intense focus, memorizing each step. Sometimes, while they worked, Arin would hum strange songs in her language. The melodies were beautiful and sad. They made Ji-won's chest ache in a way that had nothing to do with his illness. He asked her about the songs once. She tried to explain. They were stories, she said. Stories of her people, of their history and their dreams. Singing was how the Nerith remembered the past. Ji-won listened to every song. Even though he did not understand the words, he felt their meaning. Loss, hope, loneliness, love. 2 weeks after Arin woke up, Ji-won's condition worsened. He had been feeling weaker each day, but he tried to hide it. He did not want to worry her. But his body was failing faster than he expected. One morning he could not get out of bed. Pain shot through his chest and arms. His vision blurred. He tried to stand, but his legs would not support him. Erin found him on the floor of his quarters. She knelt beside him, her golden eyes full of fear. She touched his face and her hands were shaking. "Jiwon," she said. His name sounded desperate in her voice. He tried to smile. "I am okay," he lied, but she knew. Somehow she knew he was not okay. Erin helped him back to bed. She brought water and medicine. But when the pain did not go away, she became frantic. She paced the room, speaking rapidly in her language. Jiwon could not understand the words, but he heard the panic. Finally, she sat beside him and took his hand. She pressed it against her chest, right over her heart. Her scales were warm under his palm. She looked into his eyes and spoke slowly, carefully choosing words he would understand. "Sick," she said. "You sick?" Jiwon nodded weakly. There was no point in lying anymore. "Dying," he said softly. "I am dying." Erin's eyes widened. She shook her head fiercely. "No," she said. "No dying. I am sorry," Jiwon whispered. "There is no cure." Erin stood abruptly. She looked angry. Her scales flared slightly, shimmering brighter. She spoke in her language, the words tumbling out fast and frustrated. Then she switched back to his language. "My people," she said. "My people know. No healing. No fix." Jiwon wanted to tell her it was impossible, that her people were gone, that their knowledge was lost. But the determination in her eyes stopped him. "Where?" he asked. "Where is this knowledge?" Erin looked around the room, thinking hard. Then she pointed down, toward the lower levels of the station. "Here," she said. "Station have." "Station keep secrets," Jiwon frowned. "What secrets?" Erin grabbed his datapad from the table. Her fingers moved across the screen clumsily at first, then with growing confidence. She pulled up the station's database and began searching through files. Most of the files were corrupted or encrypted. But Erin seemed to know what she was looking for. She navigated through layers of data, finding paths that Jiwon had never noticed. Finally, she stopped on a file labeled Biological Research Archive, Restricted. Jiwon sat up, despite the pain. "What is that?" Erin's golden eyes met his. "Station not normal," she said. Station was lab. Science lab. For healing. For life. Jiwon's heart pounded. A research station. That would explain the hidden room where he found Erin. It would explain the unusual power systems and the sealed sections he had not been able to access. "Can you open it?" he asked. Erin tried, but the file was locked with old security codes. She growled in frustration, a sound that was more dragon than human. Jiwon took the datapad from her hands. "Let me try." He had spent his whole life breaking into systems and fixing locked machines. His fingers flew across the screen, bypassing security protocols and cracking encryption. It took him an hour, but he finally got it open. The file contained thousands of research documents. Medical data, biological scans, treatment protocols. It was all there. Records of experiments in cross-species healing, attempts to cure diseases that were considered impossible, and there, buried in the data, was information about Jiwon's disease, the same condition he suffered from. The researchers had been studying it decades ago. Erin leaned over his shoulder, reading the screen. Even though the language was not hers, she seemed to understand the medical diagrams and charts. "Can fix," she said excitedly. "Information here. Can make you better." Jiwon scrolled through the documents. The research was incomplete. The project had been abandoned before they found a cure. But there were notes, theories, equipment specifications for experimental treatments. Maybe, just maybe, there was hope. Erin gripped his shoulder gently. "We find," she said firmly. "We fix you together." Jiwon looked up at her. This strange girl from a lost civilization. This dragon creature who had been sleeping while the universe forgot her people. She was offering him hope when he had none left. His eyes burned with tears he refused to shed. "Okay," he said. "Together." Erin smiled for the first time since waking up. It was a beautiful smile that made her whole face light up, and Jiwon felt his dying heart beat just a little bit stronger. Jiwon sat in the medical bay of the transport ship, staring at the results on the old datapad. The doctor's words still echoed in his mind. 6 months. maybe 8 if he was lucky. His body was shutting down, cell by cell, victim to a rare disease that ate away at him from the inside. No cure existed. No treatment could stop it. He was 42 years old and dying. The transport ship rumbled as it passed through an asteroid field. G1 looked out the small window at the stars. He had spent his whole life fixing things. Engines, life support systems, broken ships, damaged stations. He could repair almost anything. Everything except himself. The other passengers on the transport avoided him. They could see the sickness in his pale skin and tired eyes. G1 did not mind. He wanted to be alone anyway. 3 days ago, he had seen an advertisement on the Galactic Network. An old space station for sale. Station Helios 7. The price was incredibly low, almost nothing. The listing said it was in the outer rim, far from any inhabited planets. It was damaged and abandoned. No one wanted it. G1 wanted it. He had used all his remaining credits to buy it. The transaction was simple. No questions asked. The previous owner seemed happy to get rid of it. Now G1 owned a dying space station, perfect for a dying man. The transport ship dropped him off 2 weeks later. The pilot looked at Station Helios 7 through the view screen and shook his head. "You sure about this?" the pilot asked. "That thing looks like it will fall apart any day now." G1 grabbed his tool bag and supply crates. "I am sure. Your funeral," the pilot muttered. The words were more accurate than the pilot knew. G1 took a small shuttle from the transport to the station. As he got closer, he could see how bad the damage was. The outer hull had holes in it. Several sections looked like they had been hit by debris. The solar panels were broken. Half the lights were dead. It was perfect. The docking bay doors barely opened. G1 had to manually override the system. When he finally got inside, the air was stale and cold. The gravity generators worked, but just barely. Everything hummed with the sound of failing machinery. He walked through the empty corridors. His footsteps echoed in the silence. The station had been abandoned for at least 20 years, maybe more. Dust covered everything. Some walls had plants growing through cracks, strange alien vines that had somehow survived in the recycled air. G1 found the main control room. Most of the computers were dead, but he managed to get basic power working. Lights flickered on throughout the station. He checked the life support systems. They were failing, but he could fix them. That would give him something to do while he waited to die. For 3 weeks, G1 worked on the station. He repaired the air recyclers. He patched holes in the hull. He got the water systems running again. The work was hard and his body ached, but it felt good to be useful. It felt good to fix things one last time. He did not eat much. His appetite was gone. But he drank water and took his pain medication when the aching got too bad. At night, he slept in one of the old crew quarters. The bed was uncomfortable, but he did not care. He was too tired to care about anything. One day, while fixing a broken panel in the lower deck, G1 found something strange. A door that was not on any of the station maps. It was hidden behind a false wall, sealed with an old security lock. His curiosity won over his exhaustion. He spent 2 hours breaking through the lock. When the door finally opened, cold air rushed out. The room beyond was dark and filled with frost. G1 turned on his flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness and revealed a small chamber. In the center stood a cryopod, a sleeping pod designed to freeze someone in time. His heart beat faster. Someone was inside. He walked closer, brushing frost from the glass panel. Inside was a girl, but not a human girl. Her skin had scales that shimmered even in the dim light. They were blue and silver like starlight reflecting on water. Her hair was long and white. Small horns curved from her forehead, a dragon girl, or something like one. G1 had heard stories about dragon-like aliens, ancient species that lived in the far regions of space, but most of them were extinct, gone for hundreds of years. He checked the cryopod's control panel. It was still running, powered by an independent battery that had somehow lasted all these years. The readouts showed the girl was alive. Frozen but alive, G1's hand shook. He should leave her alone. He should seal the room and forget about it. He came here to die in peace, not to get involved in mysteries, but his fingers were already moving across the controls. He was a mechanic. He fixed things, and this girl, frozen and alone, needed to be fixed too. The cryopod began its wake-up sequence. It would take several hours. G1 sat down on the cold floor and waited. His body hurt. His chest felt tight. But for the first time in months, he felt something other than despair. He felt curious. The hours passed slowly. The pod hummed and clicked as it warmed up. Frost melted from the glass. Inside, the girl's scales began to glow faintly. Her chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. Finally, the pod opened with a hiss of released air. The girl's eyes snapped open. They were golden, like flames. She looked around the room in panic, her body trembling. Then her gaze locked on Jiwon. She tried to speak, but only strange sounds came out. Her language was not one Jiwon knew. She climbed out of the pod, stumbling on weak legs. Her scales shimmered in the light, and he could see small wings folded against her back. They looked delicate, like glass. She was terrified, lost, alone. Jiwon stood up slowly, holding out his empty hands to show he meant no harm. "It is okay," he said softly. "You are safe." She did not understand his words, but she seemed to understand his tone. Her breathing slowed. She watched him with those golden eyes full of fear and confusion. Jiwon's dying heart beat steadily in his chest. He had bought this station to spend his last days in solitude. But now, standing in front of this strange and beautiful creature, he realized something had changed. He had a reason to keep living, at least for a little while longer. He needed to help her. He needed to protect her. He needed to understand who she was and why she had been frozen here for so long. The girl took a hesitant step toward him. Her hand reached out, scales glittering. Jiwon did not move. He let her touch his arm, her fingers cold against his skin. She spoke again in her alien language. This time the words sounded like a question. Jiwon smiled sadly. "I do not know," he said, "but we will figure it out together." In the depths of the forgotten station, two lost souls had found each other. One was dying, one had been sleeping, and neither of them knew that their meeting would change everything. The restricted sectors of Station Helio 7 had been sealed for over 30 years. Jiwon and Aaron stood before the heavy blast doors, studying the control panel. Rust covered the metal and the electronic lock was dead. "We need power," Jiwon said. He was feeling better today. The pain medication was working, and Aaron had made him eat a proper meal. She was surprisingly good at taking care of him. Aaron nodded. She had been studying the station's systems obsessively for the past week. Her intelligence amazed Jiwon. She understood complex machinery faster than anyone he had ever met. They worked together to reroute power from the main generator. It took hours of crawling through access tunnels and rewiring circuits. Aaron's small size helped her reach places Jiwon could not fit. Her scales protected her from sharp edges and electrical burns. When they finally got power to the door, the control panel lit up weakly. But it still would not open. The security system wanted a code they did not have. Jiwon sighed. "I can override it, but it will take time." "How much time?" Aaron asked. Her language skills had improved dramatically. She spoke in full sentences now, though her accent was still thick. "Days, maybe a week." Aaron frowned. She walked up to the door and placed both hands on it. Her scales began to glow softly. The light spread from her hands across the metal surface. "What are you doing?" Jiwon asked. "Listening," Aaron said. She closed her eyes and stood very still. The glow from her scales grew brighter. Then suddenly her eyes snapped open. They blazed with golden light. Heat burst from her hands. The metal around the lock began to melt and warp. The smell of burning circuits filled the air. Jiwon jumped back. "Aaron," she did not stop. Fire poured from her palms, pure and white-hot. The blast door groaned and buckled. The lock mechanism melted into slag. With a final burst of flame, Aaron pushed, and the door swung open. The fire died. Aaron stumbled back, breathing hard. The glow faded from her scales. Jiwon stared at her in shock. "You can breathe fire?" Aaron looked at her hands, surprised. "I forgot," she said quietly. "My people could do this. I have not used it since I was young." "That was incredible," Jiwon said. Aaron smiled shyly. "It felt good. Like waking up something sleeping inside me." They entered the restricted sector carefully. Emergency lights flickered on as they walked down the corridor. Dust hung thick in the air. Their footsteps echoed. The first room they found was a medical laboratory. Equipment lined the walls, all of it old but preserved in the sealed environment. There were scanners, treatment pods, and machines Jiwon did not recognize. Aaron went straight to a computer terminal and powered it on. Files appeared on the screen. Research notes, experiment logs, patient records, Jiwon read over her shoulder. His blood ran cold as he understood what this place had been. Station Helios 7 was not just a research facility. It was a black site, a secret laboratory where humans and aliens worked together on forbidden experiments. They were trying to cure death itself, trying to make people immortal. "This is insane," Jiwon muttered. Aaron scrolled through the files. "They tested on volunteers," she said. "People who were dying. Like you." The experiments had failed. Over and over. The subjects died in horrible ways. But the researchers kept trying. They combined human technology with alien biology. They used genetic modification and cybernetic enhancement. And then something went terribly wrong. Jiwon found the final log entry. It was dated 32 years ago. The station director had written it. "Critical containment failure in Lab 7. Biological agent released. All personnel infected. Initiating emergency protocols." May God forgive us, after that, nothing. The station had been abandoned. Everyone had died or escaped, except Aaron. "They put you in cryo to save you," Jiwon said. "When the outbreak happened," Aaron nodded slowly. "I remember now. I was sick. The scientists said cryo was the only way. They would wake me when they found a cure." Her voice grew quiet. "But they never came back." Jiwon put his hand on her shoulder. "I am sorry." Aaron took a shaky breath. Then she straightened her shoulders. "We cannot change the past. But we can use what they learned. We can save you." They spent the next 3 days exploring the restricted sector. They found 5 different laboratories, each one focused on different research. One studied cellular regeneration. Another worked on genetic diseases. A third developed biomechanical implants. The equipment was old, but most of it still worked. Jiwon was able to repair the damaged systems. Aaron studied the research files, absorbing information at an incredible rate. In Lab 3, they found something important. A prototype regeneration chamber. It was designed to rebuild damaged cells using a combination of stem cells and nanomachines. The research note said it had shown promise for treating degenerative diseases. Diseases exactly like Jiwon's. "This could work," Aaron said excitedly. She pulled up schematics on the screen. "But we need components. Special medical nanobots. They should be in storage." They searched the storage rooms. Most of the supplies were degraded or contaminated. But in a sealed freezer unit, they found what they needed: vials of silvery liquid. Medical nanomachines, still viable after 3 decades. Jiwon held one of the vials up to the light. "This is really happening," he said quietly. "There might actually be a cure." Aaron smiled. "I told you." We fixed together. That night, they celebrated with a meal in the common room. Aaron had found how to make the food synthesizer work better. The meal was not great, but it was better than protein bars. They were laughing about something silly when the station's proximity alarm went off. Jiwon's smile died. He ran to the control room with Aaron right behind him. The sensors showed 3 ships approaching. Small vessels, fast and armed. "Scavengers," Jiwon said grimly. Scavenger crews roamed the outer rim, looking for abandoned stations and derelict ships. They stripped everything of value and sold it on the black market. They were often violent and always greedy. "What do we do?" Aaron asked. Jiwon checked the station's defenses. Most were offline. He had not bothered to repair the weapon systems because he never expected trouble. "We try to talk to them," he said. "Maybe they will leave if we ask nicely." But he did not believe it. Scavengers did not leave valuable salvage just because someone asked. The ships docked at the station's bay. Jiwon watched on the security cameras. 8 people came out. They were armed with guns and cutting tools. Their leader was a tall man with scars on his face and cold eyes. Jiwon recognized the type. Dangerous, ruthless. He went to meet them at the entrance to the main corridor. Aaron wanted to come, but he made her stay hidden. He did not want them to see her. The leader of the scavengers looked Jiwon up and down. "This station is abandoned," he said. "Salvage rights go to whoever finds it first." "It is not abandoned," Jiwon replied calmly. "I own it. I bought it legally," the man laughed. "Show me the papers." Jiwon pulled up the purchase documents on his datapad. The man barely looked at them. "Fake," he said. "Everyone knows this station was lost decades ago. Finders keepers." "I have proof of ownership," Jiwon insisted. "You have no legal right to be here." The man stepped closer. His hand rested on his gun. Legal right does not matter out here. What matters is who has the bigger guns. Now step aside, old man. We are taking what we want. G1 did not move. No, the man's eyes narrowed. You want to die for a piece of junk? I already am dying, G1 said. So threats do not work on me. Leave. Now. For a moment, the scavenger leader looked uncertain. Then he smiled coldly. Boys, looks like we have a hero. Search the station. Take everything. The scavengers pushed past G1. He tried to stop them, but one of them hit him hard. He fell to the floor, pain exploding in his chest. He heard Aaron scream his name. She came running from where she had been hiding. When she saw G1 on the ground, her eyes blazed with golden fire. Her scales flared bright. The scavengers stared at her in shock. What the hell is that? One of them whispered. The leader grinned. An alien. A rare one, too. She will sell for a fortune. He raised his gun and pointed it at Aaron. Come quietly and we will not hurt you. Aaron's answer was a roar that shook the walls. Fire erupted from her mouth, white flames that burned brighter than a star. The scavengers scattered, screaming. One of them was too slow. The fire caught him and his screams turned into something horrible. Aaron did not stop. She moved like lightning, her claws extending from her fingers. She was a whirlwind of fury and flame. Scales that had seemed delicate became armor. Wings that looked fragile spread wide and fierce. She was not a helpless girl. She was a dragon. The scavengers fired their guns, but the bullets bounced off her scales. Aaron tore through them like they were nothing. Her strength was incredible. She threw grown men across the corridor. Her claws cut through metal and flesh alike. G1 watched in awe and terror. This was the power of the Nerith. This was what her people had been. The scavenger leader tried to run. But Aaron was faster. She caught him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Fire danced around her fingers. Leave, she growled. Her voice was different now, deeper, more primal. Leave now or burn. The man nodded frantically. Aaron dropped him and he scrambled away. The surviving scavengers dragged their wounded and ran for their ships. Within minutes, the ships were undocking and fleeing into space. Aaron stood in the corridor, breathing hard. Her scales were still glowing. Blood stained her claws. She looked down at her hands and trembled. The scavenger fleet spread out around Station Helios 7 like wolves circling prey. 12 ships. Over 60 armed fighters. G1 watched them on the sensors and felt his new heart beat steadily. No fear, no panic. Just cold determination. Aaron stood beside him, studying the tactical display. They will try to board from multiple points, she said. Overwhelm us with numbers. Then we need to make sure they cannot board, G1 replied. He activated the station's defense grid. It was not much. 2 working weapons, turrets, and shields at 60%. But it was better than nothing. The scavenger leader's voice came through the communications. Last chance. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick. G1 leaned toward the microphone. Come and take it. He cut the transmission. The scavenger ships opened fire. Energy blasts slammed into the station's shields. The whole structure shook. Alarms blared. G1 diverted more power to the shields, pulling it from non-essential systems. The weapons turrets returned fire. They were old and slow, but accurate. One blast caught a scavenger ship in the engine. It exploded in a bright flash. 11 ships left, but it was not enough. The scavengers had too much firepower. The shields began to fail. Section by section, the protective barrier flickered and died. They are launching boarding pods, Aaron said. G1 saw them on the sensors. Small assault craft heading straight for the docking bays and hull breach points. Go to the main corridor junction, he told Aaron. That is where most of them will converge. I will handle the ones trying to breach through the lower levels. Aaron grabbed his arm. We should stay together. We cannot. They are coming from too many directions. He cupped her face gently. Trust me. I am not going to die today. Aaron nodded reluctantly. Do not make me regret saving your life. She kissed him quickly, fiercely. Then she ran toward the main corridor, fire already dancing around her hands. G1 went the other way, heading for the lower deck access points. His body moved differently now. Faster, stronger. The hybrid DNA Aaron had given him was changing him in ways he was still discovering. The first boarding pod smashed through the hull near the cargo bay. Scavengers poured out, weapons ready. G1 was waiting for them. He had set up traps throughout the lower levels. Old mining charges wired to motion sensors, sealed bulkheads that could be triggered remotely. The station itself became a weapon. The first group of scavengers triggered a charge. The explosion tore through them, sending bodies flying. The survivors scattered, shouting in panic. Ji-won moved through the shadows. He had a plasma cutter in one hand and a makeshift club in the other. Not sophisticated weapons, but effective. He caught the first scavenger from behind. The man went down without a sound. The second turned just in time to see Ji-won swing the club. The impact echoed in the corridor. More scavengers came. Ji-won fought with a fury he did not know he possessed. The hybrid strength made him faster and more resilient. He took hits that should have broken bones, but kept fighting. Meanwhile, in the main corridor, Eren faced the bulk of the assault force. 20 scavengers armed with guns and energy weapons. They saw her standing alone and laughed. Their laughter died when she transformed. Her wings spread wide, no longer delicate but powerful. Her scales hardened into armor. Her eyes blazed with pure golden fire. She became what her people had always been when threatened, a dragon warrior. Fire erupted from her mouth in a continuous stream. The scavengers screamed and dove for cover. The metal walls glowed red-hot. The air itself seemed to burn. Eren moved among them like a force of nature. Her claws tore through armor and flesh. Her tail whipped around, knocking men off their feet. Every movement was precise and deadly. She was not just fighting. She was dancing. The ancient combat forms of her people flowing through her body like remembered music. A scavenger tried to shoot her in the back. She spun and caught the bullet with her hand. The metal flattened against her scales. She crushed it and threw it back with enough force to knock the man unconscious. In the lower levels, Ji-won was holding his position. Bodies littered the corridor behind him. He was bleeding from a dozen cuts, but he did not stop. Could not stop. A huge scavenger came at him with a vibroblade. The weapon hummed, designed to cut through almost anything. Ji-won ducked under the first swing and drove the plasma cutter into the man's knee. The scavenger went down howling, but there were too many. For everyone Ji-won took down, 2 more appeared. He was being pushed back toward the reactor room. He triggered another trap. A sealed bulkhead slammed down, cutting off half the attackers. But it would not hold long. Ji-won's communicator crackled. Eren's voice came through, strained but triumphant. "Main corridor is clear. I am coming to you." "No," Ji-won said. "I need you to do something else," he explained quickly. Eren argued, but finally agreed. 3 minutes later, the station began to shake. Not from weapons fire. From the reactor. Ji-won was overloading it, pushing it past safety limits. The whole station would explode in less than 10 minutes. The scavenger leader realized what was happening. His voice screamed through all channels. "Fall back! Everyone back to the ships, now!" The scavengers abandoned their assault and ran for their boarding pods. They scrambled over each other in panic, trying to escape the doomed station. Ji-won and Eren met at the escape shuttle bay. It was a small emergency craft they had prepared earlier. Barely big enough for 2 people. They threw their few belongings inside. Medical supplies. Data files from the research labs. Everything they had learned. 30 seconds, Ji-won said, checking the reactor countdown. They climbed into the shuttle. Ji-won started the engines while Eren sealed the door. The tiny craft lifted off its docking clamps. "Go, go, go!" Eren urged. The shuttle shot out of the bay just as the reactor went critical. Behind them, Station Helios 7 erupted in a massive explosion. The blast wave caught their shuttle and sent it spinning. Ji-won fought the controls. The shuttle tumbled through space, alarms screaming. He could not stabilize it. Eren grabbed his hand. Her scales glowed. Energy poured from her into him and into the ship's systems. Together they fought for control. The shuttle finally steadied. They flew away from the expanding debris field as fast as the engines could manage. Behind them, scavenger ships were caught in the explosion. Several were destroyed instantly. The others scattered and fled, too damaged or too scared to pursue. Ji-won and Eren watched the station burn. Their home, their laboratory, everything they had worked on, gone. Eren leaned against Ji-won's shoulder. "Where do we go now?" Ji-won looked at the star charts. The galaxy was vast, full of possibilities. "Anywhere," he said. "Everywhere. We are alive. We are free. That is all that matters." He set a course for the nearest inhabited system. They would need supplies. A new ship. A new start. Eren was quiet for a long time. Then she said softly, "I am scared." "Me too," Ji-won admitted. "But also excited," she added. "Me too." They flew in comfortable silence. The shuttle was small and cramped, but it felt safe, like a cocoon protecting them from the void outside. 3 months passed. Jiwon and Aaron had purchased a better ship with credits they earned doing repair work. It was not big or fancy, just a reliable cargo hauler with enough space to live comfortably. They called it Last Dragon's Hope. They traveled the outer rim, offering their services to colonies and outposts. Jiwon fixed machines and ships. Aaron helped with difficult repairs that required strength or precision. Together, they made a good team. Word spread about the human mechanic and his dragon partner. People were curious. Some were afraid. Most were just grateful for reliable repairs in the lawless frontier. At night, they would sit in the cargo hold and talk. About the past. About the future. About everything and nothing. Jiwon's body continued to change slowly. He was stronger than any normal human. He healed faster. Sometimes in moments of stress, his eyes would flash with golden light. He was becoming something new, something that had never existed before, human and Nerith combined. Aaron taught him more about her people's culture, their language, their songs, their way of seeing the universe, and Jiwon taught her about human resilience, about never giving up, even when everything seemed hopeless. One evening, as they orbited a beautiful blue planet, Aaron asked, "Do you regret it? Buying that station? If you had not, you would never have been in danger." Jiwon considered the question. Then he smiled. "No. Because if I had not bought the station, I never would have found you." Aaron smiled back. "And I would still be sleeping. Alone forever." She moved closer and took his hand. Their fingers intertwined. Human skin and dragon scales fitting together perfectly. "We saved each other," she said. "Yes," Jiwon agreed. "We did." They sat together watching the stars. Two lost souls who had found each other in the darkness. Two broken pieces that had become whole. The galaxy was dangerous, full of threats and uncertainty. But they faced it together, and that made all the difference. Years later, stories would spread across the outer rim. Tales of the mechanic with dragon blood and his fierce partner. They helped the helpless, protected the weak, stood against those who preyed on others. Some said they were heroes. Others said they were myths. Legends that grew with each telling, but to each other they were just Jiwon and Aaron. Two people who chose to live when dying would have been easier. Two souls who refused to give up on each other or themselves. "I hurt them," she whispered. "I killed one." Jiwon got to his feet slowly. Every day after the attack, Jiwon and Aaron did not sleep. They spent the night preparing for the scavengers to return. Jiwon worked on repairing the station's defense systems while Aaron helped him carry equipment and tools. She was quiet, different. The violence had changed something in her. "Are you okay?" Jiwon asked as they rewired a weapons turret. Aaron did not answer right away. She tightened a bolt with more force than necessary. "I remember more now," she finally said. "About my people. About what we were, and what do you mean?" She set down her tools and looked at her hands. In the dim light, her scales shimmered. The Nerith were peaceful. We loved art and music and science, but we were also warriors when we needed to be. We protected our worlds from invaders, from those who wanted to hurt us. "You were defending yourself," Jiwon said. "Defending me, I know. But I felt something when I fought them. Something I did not expect." She met his eyes. "I felt alive. For the first time since I woke up, I felt like myself. Like I had a purpose." Jiwon understood. He had felt the same way when he started repairing the station. When you spent so long feeling useless, doing something that mattered felt like breathing after drowning. "Your purpose is not just fighting," he said gently. "You have helped me so much. You found the research. You are trying to save my life." Aaron smiled a little. "We are trying to save each other, I think." They worked through the night. By morning, they had one weapons turret online and the shields at partial power. It was not much, but it was better than nothing. Jiwon's body was failing faster now. The fight had taken too much out of him. He could barely stand without feeling dizzy. His hands shook when he tried to work. Aaron noticed. She made him sit down and brought him water. "We need to start the treatment soon," she said. "You are getting worse, I know, but we are not ready. We still need to test the regeneration chamber. Make sure it works properly." "We do not have time for tests," Aaron said firmly. "We have to try now." Ji-won looked at the determination in her golden eyes. She was right. He could feel death creeping closer every day. If they waited much longer, it would be too late. Okay, he agreed. Tomorrow. We will try tomorrow. That evening, they sat together in the observation deck. It was Ji-won's favorite place on the station, a room with a huge window that looked out at the stars. They had cleaned it up and brought cushions to sit on. Aaron leaned against him as they watched a nearby nebula slowly drift by. It glowed purple and blue like paint spilled across the darkness. It is beautiful, she said softly. Yes, Ji-won agreed. But he was not looking at the nebula. He was looking at her. Aaron turned and caught him staring. She blushed, her scales darkening slightly. What? Nothing. I am glad you are here. I thought I wanted to die alone. But I was wrong. Having you here has made everything better. Aaron's eyes grew bright with unshed tears. I thought I was alone too. The last of my kind, with no one who understood me. But then you woke me up. You gave me a reason to exist again. She reached up and touched his face gently. Her scales were warm against his skin. I do not want you to die, Ji-won, she whispered. I want you to stay with me. I want that too, he said. They sat in silence for a while, just being close. Then Aaron began to hum, one of her people's songs. It was different from the sad ones she usually sang. This one sounded hopeful, like sunrise after a long night. Ji-won closed his eyes and listened. He felt her heartbeat against his side, steady and strong, so different from his own failing heart. What is this song about? He asked when she finished. It is about finding home, Aaron said. My people believed home was not a place. It was a feeling, a connection to someone who understands you completely. Have you found that feeling? Aaron nodded. She pressed her hand over his heart. Yes, I have. Ji-won's breath caught. He put his hand over hers, holding it against his chest. His heart beat weakly under their joined hands. Aaron, She stopped him by leaning forward and pressing her forehead against his. It was a gesture from her people, she had told him once. A way of sharing thoughts and feelings without words. They stayed like that for a long moment. Two beings from different worlds, sharing the same breath. When they finally pulled apart, Aaron smiled. Tomorrow we fix you, and then we have all the time in the universe. The next morning, they prepared the regeneration chamber. It stood in the center of Lab 3, a cylindrical pod filled with clear liquid and medical nanomachines. Aaron had spent days programming it, using the research files and her own knowledge of Nerith medicine. Ji-won stood looking at it nervously. What if it does not work? It will work, Aaron said, but her voice shook slightly. And if it does not? Aaron took his hand. Then we tried. That is all we can do. Ji-won squeezed her hand. Thank you. For everything. Do not talk like you are saying goodbye, Aaron said fiercely. This is not goodbye. This is the beginning, he smiled. You are right. I'm sorry, the process was complex. First, Ji-won had to drink a solution that would prepare his cells for the nanomachines. It tasted horrible, like metal and bitter medicine. Then he had to strip down and enter the chamber. The liquid was cold at first, but it quickly warmed to body temperature. Breathing tubes went into his nose and mouth. Sensors attached to his skin. It was uncomfortable and frightening. Aaron stood outside the chamber, her hand pressed against the glass. I will be right here, she said. The whole time. I promised, Ji-won nodded. He could not speak with the breathing tubes in his mouth. Aaron started the sequence. The chamber hummed to life. The liquid began to glow faintly as the nanomachines activated. They were too small to see, but Ji-won could feel them entering his body. Millions of tiny robots swimming through his blood, finding the damaged cells. At first, it just felt strange. Then it began to hurt. Pain exploded through his entire body. Every cell screamed. It felt like he was being torn apart and rebuilt at the same time. Ji-won wanted to scream, but the breathing tube stopped him. Through the glass, he could see Aaron. Her face was twisted with worry. She was saying something, but he could not hear through the liquid. The pain got worse. Ji-won's vision darkened. His heart stuttered. For a moment, he thought this was it. This was how he would die. Then Aaron pressed both hands against the glass. Her scales began to glow, bright and fierce. Heat radiated from her palms. Energy poured from her into the chamber. Ji-won felt it wash over him like warm sunlight. The pain did not stop, but it became bearable. Aaron was sharing her life force with him. giving him strength. The nanomachines worked faster. Ji-won could feel his body changing. Cells that were dying suddenly came back to life. Damaged tissue repaired itself. His heart beat stronger. Time became meaningless. It could have been minutes or hours. All Ji-won knew was pain and light and Aaron's presence holding him together. Finally, the chamber began to drain. The liquid lowered. The breathing tubes released. Ji-won gasped, sucking in real air. The glass door opened and he stumbled out. Aaron caught him before he could fall. They collapsed to the floor together, both breathing hard. Did it work? Ji-won gasped. Aaron pulled out a medical scanner. Her hand shook as she ran it over his body. She stared at the results. Then she started crying. It worked, she sobbed. It worked. The damage is reversed. Your cells are regenerating properly. You are healing. Ji-won felt tears on his own face. He pulled Aaron into a tight hug and they both cried together. Relief and joy and exhaustion all mixed together. You saved me, Ji-won said. You really saved me. We saved each other, Aaron corrected. She pulled back to look at him. But there is something else. Something the scan showed. What? The nanomachines bonded with your cells. They incorporated some of the energy I gave you. Your DNA has changed slightly. Changed how? Aaron bit her lip. You have traces of Nerith genetics now, not much. But enough that you are not fully human anymore. You are something new, something between our species. Ji-won processed this. He should have been scared. Horrified even. But all he felt was wonder. So I am part dragon now? He asked. Aaron nodded. Ji-won laughed. It started as a small chuckle and grew into full laughter. He could not stop. It felt too good to be alive. Aaron started laughing too. They sat on the floor of the laboratory, holding each other and laughing like children. When they finally calmed down, Ji-won touched Aaron's face. I do not care what I am. As long as I can stay with you, Aaron's eyes shimmered. Always, she whispered. They leaned toward each other. Their lips met in a gentle kiss. It was soft and sweet and tasted like hope. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling, but their happiness was short-lived. The station's alarms began blaring. Ji-won and Aaron ran to the control room. The sensors showed multiple ships approaching. Many more than before. At least 12 vessels, all heavily armed. The scavengers had returned, and they brought an army. The lead ship sent a transmission. The scarred leader appeared on screen. His face was twisted with anger. You cost me men and money, he snarled. Now I am going to take everything from you. Your station, your equipment, and that alien freak. I will sell her piece by piece if I have to. The transmission cut off. Ji-won looked at Aaron. She looked back at him. They both knew this was it. The final fight, we cannot win against that many, Ji-won said. No, Aaron agreed. But we can make them regret coming here. Ji-won smiled grimly. His body